Hello and welcome to the Intentional Teacher Podcast. I'm your host, Monique, and I am super excited because we have a guest on the episode today. It is my friend Athena, and Athena is fantastic because she is an expert when it comes to all things around our nutrition, our fitness, and our energy levels. And I really wanted to bring Athena on today because I think she can help you as a teacher really feel more energetic and find ways to bring in exercise and care and self-care, taking care of yourself, even though you have a really demanding and busy schedule as a teacher. So Athena, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, how about we get started and just let us know a little bit about who you are and who you help.
Awesome. So, like Lauren said, my name's Athena Concannon. And on the personal front, I have two kids. I live north of Boston, Massachusetts. And on the work front, I'm a certified personal trainer, nutrition coach. I have specialties in pre and postnatal as well as metabolism. And in my coaching practice, I help working moms in their 30s and 40s, some of whom are teachers, really get back to a sense of structure and intentionality in their fitness so that they, yes, can feel stronger and like really get more comfortable in their clothes again, but also feel like they are a priority in their own lives again. Because a lot of my clients were very active before having kids. They Some of them even identify as being, former athletes in high
Mm-hmm.
school or college, and it's really easy to lose yourself or this part of yourself when you become a mom and you're juggling all of the things with teaching, with your career and your families. And I think it's important to help people figure out how to find this again, but doing it within the constraints of their life now, not what their life used to be.
Yeah, that is a big one that I talk about too, is that idea of um, trying to use the strategies that we had before we had kids or before a big life change. Like if you're listening to
Mhm.
the podcast, I often have teachers that I work with that are either moms and they have a new challenge, or maybe they've had a health crisis, or maybe they're taking care of someone in their family, and the strategies that they used to use just don't work anymore. And that's one reason I love chatting with Athena, is because that is similar, and I can so relate to the feeling of, even though I want to take care of myself and I want to exercise, and I did exercise really like competitively when I was younger, it feels harder to make it doable when now that I'm working and I have my little kids at home and all that stuff. So totally. I'd
Yes, we
love to
just
know.
don't have as much time as we used to.
Yeah,
We just don't.
we just don't. We have a lot of demands on our
Yeah.
time. So I'd love to know, like, what led you here? What kind of got you into the whole fitness space? How did you decide to start working with women in their 30s and 40s?
Yeah. So I've always been an active person
Mhm.
myself. I ran track in high school, which is funny to some people because I do not identify as a runner now. But I danced all through high school as well and all through college. I think we have that in common, Lauren. We were
Mhm.
dancing.
Dancing.
And I was first introduced to group fitness like back in the day. So I'm going to age myself a little bit, but I first started group fitness when I would take jazzercise classes with my mom and my best friend and her mom. And when I went to college, I gained like the typical freshman 15 that you hear about. And when I came home from school that summer, started taking more group classes to start feeling better in my body. And the gym just became my happy place. So I continued working out back at school and ended up becoming a group fitness instructor on campus. So that was where it all
Awesome.
began, was with
Oh,
like a step and sculpt class with a cassette tape. So there's that.
I love that. Sorry, I'm gonna edit this part out, but
Yeah.
I told my cleaner that I have a podcast recording, but she just rang the doorbell. Could you hear it?
No, I can't.
Okay, I'm gonna let her in, and then I will be right back. We'll
Yeah,
edit
that's
this part
fine.
out.
Yeah, that's
Sorry.
fine. No.
Oh, this is my mom's picking it up for my brother. He left it at our house. So she's fine. How are you? Good. I'm doing, do you know, a podcast? I'm recording, so I'm working here, but Theo is just at home watching TV, but he's okay. He's fine. He's going to be here. So maybe you could do the kitchen and the bathroom to start. Yeah. And this for the do you want to try this one? This maybe. Very busy and yesterday too. Hey, sorry, Athena. Oh, can I hear you?
Sorry,
Okay.
I muted myself.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I asked her to come at 9:30, but she's early, so.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Oh my gosh, I didn't hit pause. Sorry, Rebecca, for what. So we will continue. And do you want to continue on from the jazzercise where you were in
I'll do that.
your university degree? Okay, go ahead.
So here's where I think a lot of my journey began and really started shaping me, because during summers home and the years after college in my earlier 20s, I would spend a lot of time working out, because not only was it now my part-time job, I also would work out a lot on my own. And what started as a healthy outlet to alleviate stress. I grew up just to share some background, in a family with mental illness. And so I would spend a lot of time in the gym with a healthy coping outlet, healthy coping mechanism until it wasn't. But I would spend a lot of time doing like lots of classes a day, taking a class and then going for a run, doing double sessions. It was just not healthy. It turned into a way for me to get more control, and I became a little bit too obsessed. It was so much, yet I was also constantly being praised by external people for being so disciplined and doing so much. And I was so motivated. And like this just fueled my achieving personality to be the best at fitness and keep doing more and more and more. This was also at a point where diet culture really wasn't being called out as much as it is today.
Yeah.
And so even though I never really dieted per se, I never identified as being someone like on and off a diet, I definitely let what I saw other people doing influence the way that I thought about food and the things that I thought I had to do in order to be healthy for the sake of wellness. I'm using wellness in quotes here because a lot of this could be considered actually unhealthy. So this wasn't balanced at all. And really a turning point in my journey was when I was teaching for another instructor. I sprained my ankle in her class, and it forced me out of all high impact exercise for a long time. I call this my blessing in disguise because it forced me to slow down in the gym. That's when I discovered strength training and lifting weights, because I really couldn't do much of anything else. And that changed everything for me personally and professionally, because personally, like I got more intentional with my own workouts. I fell in love with lifting. It built me up. It allowed me to focus more on empowering numbers, like weight on the barbell, rather than chasing minutes on a cardio machine or shrinking my body. And I realized if I wanted to get stronger and be able to lift more and start building muscle, I had to pay attention to nutrition and really examine my relationship with rest and recovery and being able to do a little bit less. So that's where I made that conscious choice to really start unlearning so much of what I thought I needed to do to get results, and challenging some nutrition and fitness norms that were out there. And I began creating my own playbook really for what healthy and balanced meant for me in my life. And instead of just saying, okay, what's the best choice? What's the best? What's the best? I hear that a lot from people, what's the best for this? And it's really, what's the best for me today? It might not be the same thing day to day, and that can be okay. And that's when my body did start responding. I saw muscles I didn't know existed. I wasn't hungry all the time. I wasn't tired all the time. And I said, okay, this is really where I need to get this message out to more and more women. So that's where it all started.
I love that. And I didn't know that, like, I didn't know the full story. And I can see that in fitness. Like before I met you and I felt like I only could go to fitness classes, I went to a lot of Zumba and exercise classes. A lot of my instructors, like they had like a recurring injury that would last and last and last, but it was because they were pushing themselves so hard. Like I could see that they didn't ever have recovery time because they were constantly going and teaching multiple classes. So I could see that like having that injury could really change the way you were looking at your exercise.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think there's anything wrong at all with group exercise classes. I
Oh
just
no,
want,
I still
want to
love them.
make sure
Yeah.
that I put that out there because they're so fun. And I really am a big proponent of moving in ways you enjoy. And when we overdo it with anything, you can
Yeah.
overdo it with so many different types of things. So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, totally. And so, yeah, and I mean, I still love it. I still like to go to Zumba. If you've seen me
Yeah,
online, you know I dance
so
sometimes.
fun.
But I don't like, I would do it more, but it doesn't feel like it's right for me in this season. But yeah, I have seen like instructors who really, really like do it a lot, and I can tell it's hard for their bodies to recover. So another thing that I really loved what you said about like looking at rest. And that's something I've noticed. And if you're listening, maybe you've seen this, is I think sometimes we think of rest as the reward instead of rest being a part of something that we actually need, and that rest is the work. I love to hear about you, like where your what your perspective is on rest and movement.
Yeah. So when it comes to just making progress, I'll kind of talk about it in
Mhm.
that light with fitness and movement. Rest is actually where the progress happens. When you go
Mm.
to the gym and you lift weights, yes, that's the act, that's the work, and you're challenging yourself with, say, the load that you're lifting or what you're doing. But when you sleep, when you give yourself days off in between your workout sessions, that's when your muscles are getting stronger. That's when they repair and rebuild and get back stronger. So a lot of people don't know that. And I find that even if you give that reasoning behind it, even if mentally you're like, oh, I don't want to take this rest day, then it can help be a little more motivating to actually do it and prioritize it.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that. It makes me think of like our students and our kids, like that they grow at night, right? Like that they're
Yes.
like they rest and that's when their bodies are growing and they need to rest more when they're going through a growth spurt. It sounds like a similar vibe that's when our muscles are actually building. That makes so much sense.
Yeah. That's when your shoulders can can pop a little more, and that's when you can grow your glutes. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go. I learned something. I appreciate that. So, thank you for that little tip. I did not know that.
Yeah. And when it comes to the rest days too, my clients and I like to call them active recovery days, because sometimes, especially if you come from an all or nothing type of thinking, a rest day can feel like, oh, I'm only going to be sitting on the couch, which probably more of us need to do more of sometimes.
Mhm.
But it doesn't mean that you all of a sudden are becoming sedentary. You can still go for a walk. You can still stretch. We can almost divide our movement into like training movement and non-training movement. You can still be
Mm.
active and be taking rest by not overdoing it in the gym.
Oh, that makes so much sense. I like that. Like that there are different kinds of movement that we can still
Hmm.
move, but it's about being more intentional about the movement we're choosing.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice. Nice. Another thing that you mentioned too is the idea of that all or nothing mentality. And I know from talking with a lot of my own teacher clients, a lot of us have like competitive backgrounds or like some of us were athletes at some point, or we have this idea that if I am not like swimming buckets or I'm not working out for hard for an hour, it doesn't count. And I know for me, I had this before I met you. I had this thought that like I need to exercise 3 days a week for an hour. And if I can't, like it's just a lost cause and I just won't. And talking to you, I've learned that there's like you can still do something kind of in between that really is like an all or nothing mentality. So what would you recommend for the teachers who are listening who are thinking like I have such a busy schedule, like a lot of people I talk to have really long commutes and then they have their kids at home. Like, what can they do when they don't have the time that they used to dedicate to those longer workouts?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's totally normal, I think, to feel that way because we've been inundated with messaging that says more, 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 no pain, no gain, never miss a Monday. And that's where
Mm-hmm.
we can start feeling like, okay, if I can't get it in, then it's going to be a lost cause. If I'm not sweating profusely, what's the point? So we
Yeah.
are inundated with those kinds of messages all the time. And I'm just here to say that if you have to miss a Monday, you're fine. Tuesday counts too. But when you're navigating how to fit your fitness in, I don't think a lot of people actually take a hard, realistic look at the time that they have. If
Mm-hmm.
you have 2 days, 30 minutes, let's make the most of that time and let that be enough. It is a constant mental reminder to yourself, and building that habit from that and letting anything else be a bonus in
Mm-hmm.
your brain. Start with that, and likely you're going to end up feeling so good that you're doing that habit that you'll end up adding on a little bit more anyways, but just really getting very intentional with those 2 sessions. If that were me, I would say doing 2 full body strength workouts, whatever that looks like. It doesn't have to be with huge barbells in the gym. A lot of my strength workouts these days are at home with bands with my 4-year-old daughter running around me.
Yeah.
That is not my ideal by any means. But and I think it's important to have some time to yourself too. But if that's how we have to get it done for the sake of getting it done, we have to let that be good enough at some point.
I really like that. And if you have been listening to the podcast for a while, or if you worked with me, you know that I am all about what I call the intentional 10. So spending 10 minutes at the beginning of your week to plan out your week. And if you already are in that practice, I would highly recommend, like what Athena said, is like looking at your time and actually planning that out. So you maybe have those two sets of 30 minutes, like Athena was talking about. And if you haven't and you don't know what I'm talking about, we will link up the guide in the show notes so that you can take a look and see what I'm talking about. It helps you use your prep time, but you can also use it for your exercise and workouts after school as well, or even before school. Some of my clients work out before school, and I always think they are amazing. That is not for me. So yes, thank you so much for that. Like, I like that, all letting go of that all or nothing mentality.
Yeah, you're welcome.
The other thing that I think is going to be huge for you as a teacher listening is, I know that at 3 o'clock, yes, there is this component of our energy. We naturally have this dip in our energy around 3 o'clock. So that it is kind of to be expected from the research that I've done. I'm not the expert that Athena is, but what can we do to bring more energy into our days? Because as teachers, kids are really exhausting. And oftentimes we're just done in. And by Friday, it was this joke with one of my girlfriends and I. She's a teacher too. She teaches grades 6, 7. It was like on Fridays, like, forget it. We don't do anything on Fridays because we're so exhausted by Friday. And we just like can't do anything by Friday night. And this is before we had kids, by the way. So what can we do? What are maybe a tip or a quick hack that we can do to get a little bit more energy into our days as a teacher?
Yeah, I think this is where it comes down to not so much about grabbing the most caffeinated drink that you can, but taking a step back and reminding yourself about all of the big rocks. What are the big rocks that matter for your wellness? And this relates directly to your energy levels. So, water. Are you even drinking water during your teaching day? I have a lot of teacher clients, and before they start working with me, no, they weren't even taking sips out of their water bottles. So that is something that doesn't really need a lot of time at all. But with a little more intentionality around it, you can implement something that we call water first. So, water first thing in the morning, even before your caffeine, even before whatever you're getting in the car, like, drink a glass of water when you wake up. It sounds so simple. It's one of the quickest, easiest energy givers that you can do.
And I never think when I drink water that it's going to boost my energy. I just think I need to drink water. I never thought about it as an energy booster. So that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's one. As far as movement goes, I know we talked a little bit about that already, but movement is also going to give you an energy boost. So if it's that 3 p.m. hour and you are feeling like you want to just go to the break room or whatever and grab a leftover sweet, that's going to give you a quick hitting energy, but that's going to make you crash harder.
Mm-hmm.
So you there could maybe replace that with a quick walk. You know, everybody's afternoon schedules are a little bit different, but not talking about a 30-minute power walk. Maybe you're adding up and down the stairs of your school before you leave. Maybe you're adding more intentional, like going to the other side of the school to go to the bathroom. It sounds so silly, but it adds steps, it adds movement.
Yeah, totally. Even just walking around the school can
Yes.
be a big one. And one thing that I wanted to add to the water,
Mm-hmm.
because I know that I have had teachers in the past who say, like, I remember one story where a teacher was saying, like, a mom really wanted her child to drink more water at school and asked her grade 3 teacher, can you please make sure that my son drinks water at school? And she's like, listen, I can't even get myself to drink any water at school. I can't get your kid to drink water at school. And I was like, hold on. So if that's you, I totally understand, because the younger it is, the younger your students are, the more intense your day can feel and fast. But I would encourage you to build in routines that include water breaks for you and your students. Saying that you can't get yourself to drink water is truly something that we believe, but it doesn't have to be true. Like if you like for me, when I have had little kids, older kids, okay, that I don't really worry about them so much, but little ones, like I made sure they always had water breaks. And we literally called it water break. And then everyone would take out their water and drink some water. And we did it regularly. And it's the same. You just get all your kids to do it with you. And then you can drink your water, as opposed to feeling like you can't even get it through the day. Like if you're getting to the point where you're just speeding through the day and you don't have a moment to drink water or eat or anything, that's when we want to look at that, because if you build it in with your students, it's going to be a lot easier, and you don't need to tell yourself that you don't have time to drink water.
Yeah, I love that. And within the same realm of building the routines, that's really where habit stacking can get really powerful too.
Mm.
If you pair it with something like driving home or driving to
Yeah.
school, you could even set a little water challenge for yourself where it just becomes okay, I know that every day I am going to drink X amount of water within this water window of my commute or whatever it is, even if it's like putting a little bit more water into one piece of time, that's fine. It doesn't really matter how you get it in.
I like that. And it's also a lot easier. I find, like I don't realize that I'm thirsty, and my kids don't realize they're thirsty until the minute we're all sitting in the car. And so I like the idea of including water, like even on your commute and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. I think with energy too, we mentioned water, we mentioned movement, and I can't talk about energy without also talking about nutrition,
Mm-hmm.
because what we eat gives us energy. Calories literally are energy. And I think calories can get such a negative connotation.
Yeah.
Limit calories. Oh my gosh, how much calories is in this or that?
Mm-hmm.
But I really like to take an addition over subtraction approach with my clients. And so it can be really helpful to think about, okay, where can I add calories for energy? Where can I use calories as a tool for my body
Mm-hmm.
versus where can I take them away?
Yeah.
And often you end up doing the same thing anyways, but it's from a more empowered place.
So it sounds to me like, instead of thinking, like I think of like food as fuel. So
Hmm.
maybe it's something along those lines where you're looking at like what calories can I intentionally bring in to fuel myself versus what do I have to take away?
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. So instead of saying, okay, I'm starting over, I'm taking away the chips at lunch, like
Yeah.
immediately when you tell your brain that something's off limits, it's going to want it more. And that
Right.
approach is only going to last for so long to be
Hmm.
sustainable. But if you can ask yourself, what can I add to my lunch
Mm.
that is going to fuel my afternoon, or give me thinking about it from maybe your why? Why do you want to have energy in the afternoon and at night or wherever you're trying to
Yeah.
add to your meals? That can be, again, just a lot more empowering, and just feel like not that you're restricting yourself or that you're on a diet. And it's not to say you can't have the chips, but maybe now you've just shifted the amount of chips you're having by nature of adding something else.
Oh, I love that. That feels really doable. So what's maybe yeah, maybe we could finish on that note. If you're listening, what could we recommend to a teacher? Like what's one thing that they could add to their lunch or add to their afternoon snack that you would recommend adding for those calories versus focusing on taking away?
Yeah. Let me think. I two catchphrases that I use in my community. One is go pro.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really simple way to think of protein or produce.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I like that. Nice.
So I would say just go pro, pick one of that. Most women are really truly under eating protein. Even if you're eating protein at every meal, it's usually not enough. So that's one of the quickest ways or easiest ways that you could even implement right away. Where can I add a little bit more? Same end result, but thinking about PFF is another acronym that we use, and that's protein, fiber, and flavor. So I
Nice.
would say that, protein, produce, same thing really, but protein, fiber, that can include some other things besides just fruits and vegetables, and flavor, because you don't want to be eating things that you don't enjoy.
See, this is a fun fact. Athena is also really great at naming things. And I ask her for ideas for names, and I love those acronyms. Those are super easy to remember and can be a great one for our listeners. So thank you for sharing that. That's awesome.
You're so welcome. I have one more thing that I want to say about energy.
Oh, yes, please do.
I also think that you can't talk about energy without addressing stress as another big rock. And I know that that can be like, okay, yeah, more on stress management. But truly, if we aren't managing how depleted we're getting, how exhausted we're feeling, that is going to end up causing your body to hold on to whatever calories it can get for energy. That's where metabolism starts to slow down. And not to turn this into a big science lesson.
It's okay, we've got some science teachers listening.
I don't think that a lot of people equate stress sometimes with their nutrition and movement, because undereating is a stress on the body, and so is overeating. Under exercising, over exercising, all of that is a stress on the body. And that's where the body will say, well, what's going on, and feel like it's in fight or flight and start to conserve energy from elsewhere.
That makes so much sense. And that's one thing that we look at, like in my community, weekly, we look at our stress levels out of 10. Where were you before? Where are you at this week? So you start to kind of notice what your stress level is out of 10. And one thing, another tactical thing that I can suggest to you as you're listening is noticing where you're spending your time. Are you spending your time doing tasks that are urgent and important? Or are you spending your time doing tasks that are important but not urgent? And sometimes we're doing tasks that we are just urgent but not actually that important. But if we're focusing on those two areas, if you're in a place where you're always planning for tomorrow and you're stressed about getting everything done, and you're under the gun to look for a resource, you're under the gun for report cards, that's going to add to your stress levels. And so for energy, now I'm even learning from Athena, if we can move out of always planning for tomorrow and starting to look a little bit further in advance and simplifying the way we plan in advance, that can help our energy levels too, because we're going to feel less stressed out.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're thinking about, like, if you're the person that is, excuse me, burning the candle at both ends, and now you're under eating and you aren't getting enough movement, like your body is taking all of those messages in. I like to think about your metabolism and energy really like a thermostat that's like always assessing the room for maybe the temperature. Are we going to hike the temperature up? Are we going to turn the temperature down? And what's draining your body, what's charging your body, those are the messages that you're giving your brain to send to your metabolism.
Oh, see, it's so good. I'm so glad we had you on. I mean, I learned so much even just chatting with you.
Thank you.
over this episode. So, Athena, thank you so much for coming. Do you have any final thoughts to wrap up the episode before we can share a little bit about how listeners can find you?
Yes, I think the main takeaway that I want people to walk away with as well, to go back to that all or nothing mindset, is really about consistency and trying to look at it as not that you're doing the same habits 365 days a year in the exact same way. It's that you're doing the things that are bringing you closer to your goals more often than not, and understanding that anything less than perfect or ideal doesn't mean that you're off track. The ebbs and flows are actually part of the track.
I like that. Like, I talk about planning for failure, which is not a
Yeah.
fun way of putting it. But it's that idea of like, if it's not perfect, that's like to be expected. We're going to have interruptions in our school days.
Mhm.
School is very, very unpredictable, I would say, with all the things that can happen. And so this is like what you're saying, Athena, is it's like it's to be expected. It's part of the ebb and flow rather than feeling like you're failing or not doing a good enough job.
Yeah, absolutely. And our fitness, our nutrition, it's not something that we ever arrive at. It's ongoing. It really, our wellness should be forever. And so when we look at it that way and can just say, okay, this was a blip, this didn't go as planned, what's the next best step?
Totally. Totally. I love that. Well, yeah, that is super aligned with what I share too. So that's fantastic. Where can listeners go to check you out, to find you if they want to find out more about you, Athena?
Yeah, awesome. So I am on Instagram mainly. My handle there is my full name, Athena Concannon. I also do have a website, achievewithathena.com. And I recently have put out a new resource, which is for working moms.
Awesome.
And that will, I think, also just give a little bit more intentionality to some of your fitness as you are trying to balance all the things. So we can link to that too, hopefully.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we will link it up in the show notes. So thank you so much. We would be happy to share that with our listeners. So thank you so much for coming, Athena.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, definitely give Athena a follow on Instagram. She has lots of great tips that she shares, and download her latest resource so that you can either start incorporating more wellness and fitness into your day to day as a teacher, or maybe you're feeling like you need to do that all or nothing approach, and maybe you can find ways to make it a little bit more sustainable for you too. Awesome. Thanks so much for coming, Athena.
Thank you.